Alright students, this is the second video for Unit 7, Section 2, Factoring. And we already talked about factoring with the greatest common factor, and now we're going to talk about factoring out a common binomial factor. Okay, so sometimes the greatest common factor of terms is a binomial. The greatest common factor called a common binomial factor. Okay, you factor out a common binomial factor the same way you factor out a monomial factor, which is what we did with the greatest common factor before. So let's look at number 1 right here. Okay, what is the common binomial factor? If you see, it is x plus 2. All right, so if we take out the x plus 2, factor that out, what do we have left? We have 5 plus 3x. Okay? Your x plus 2 is that common binomial factor. All right, so let's look at number 2 right here. What is the common binomial factor? Well, it's s plus 6. So if we factor out the binomial s plus 6, what do we have left? We have positive 4s minus 5. Okay, on number 3 here, what is your common binomial factor? B squared plus 1. So then your second binomial is going to be a negative 2b plus. Remember, when there's not a coefficient, you put a 1, so that's plus 1. You cannot put a 0. It will change the value of that binomial. Okay, on number 4, we have z squared minus 7 and 2z cubed plus 1. So do we have a common binomial factor? We do not. Therefore, you cannot factor that one. Okay. Now we're going to talk about the third one. You may be able to factor a polynomial by grouping when the polynomial has 4 terms. Okay? You can make 2 groups and factor out the greatest common factor from each group. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to first divide this polynomial into 2 groups. Okay? So for the first group here, we have 6h to the 4th and 4h cubed. So let's factor these out, okay? So for 6h to the 4th, that's 2 times 3 and 4 h's. For 4x cubed, 4h cubed, sorry about that, that's 2 times 2, h. Okay, so let's factor out. We have a 2, and we have 3 h's. So that's 2h cubed. And what do we have left? We have 3h minus 2. Okay? Now, let's look at the second binomial. We have 12h, and we have 8. So for 12, you have 2 times 2 times 3 and h, and then for 8 you have 2 times 2 times 2. So what do they have in common? They have, let's see, 4, and what do they have left? They have 3h minus 2, and that's a positive 4. Okay, now we have a common binomial here. 3h minus 2. So what we can do is we can take the 2h cubed plus the 4 and times it by the 3h minus 2. Okay? Now let's check this one. We're saying this is the answer. So let's FOIL it and make sure it equals this trinomial right here. So we have 2h cubed times 3h, 6h to the 4th, 2h cubed minus 2, which is a negative 4h cubed, 4 times 3h plus 12h, 4 times a negative 2 minus h, or minus 8. So 6h to the 4th minus 4h cubed plus 12h minus 8. So this type of factoring is called grouping. Okay, let's do number 2 here. First, let's take this polynomial and break it down into 2 binomials. Okay, so let's work on this binomial. We have 5y to the 4th, which is 5, and 4 y's. And then we have 15y cubed, which is 3 times 5, and 3 y's. Okay, so we have a 5 in common, and we have 3 y's in common. So what's left? Y minus 3. Okay, now let's look at the second one. So we have y squared, which is y times y, and we have 3y, which is 3y. All right, what do they have in common? They have 1y. So then inside you have y minus 3. Okay, we have a common binomial factor here, so let's pull it out. And then what you have left is you have 5y cubed plus y. Okay, let's check. This is the answer. So what we need to do is we need to FOIL. So we have y times y. We've already done that. We have y times y. And then we have y times 5y cubed, which is 5y to the 4th. And then we have negative 3 times 5y cubed, which is negative 15y cubed. And then we have negative 3 times y, which is negative 3y. Okay, so let's see if we got this right. We have a positive y to the 4th. We have a negative 15y cubed. We have y squared, and we have negative 3y. All right. I'm going to be quiet and let y'all try to do this one on your own. Look up here if you get stuck. Okay, got one more. We can do this one together. So let's put them in two groups. So we have 4r cubed. And we have 24r for the 6. And 2 times 2 for the r. 6 times 4 is 24. Okay, so what do they have in common? We have 2 2's and 1 r. So that's 4r. What's left? R squared plus 6. Okay, now let's look at the second binomial. R squared is r and r. 6 is 2 times 3. Okay, so do they have anything in common? They do not. So it's going to be plus 1. Well, the greatest common factor is always going to be 1 if they have nothing in common. And then it's r squared plus 6. 4r plus 1, r squared plus 6. So here's your answer. And you can distribute it to make sure that you end up with this polynomial. Alrighty, that's it, guys.